Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
What is up? Welcome to Lombardi's Legends Podcast. Dane, Wags, we're back, baby. Season 2025 here. And man, it's been a minute since Packer football actually meant something. So we're excited to be here. This is our, Wags, 7th, 8th season it's been. We've been doing this darn thing for a minute. So glad to be back for yet another year. And there's a lot of excitement, a lot of optimism. We haven't had a chance to talk about Micah Parsons. We haven't had a chance to talk about some of this stuff over the last couple of weeks that has happened. But I got to ask you right away, buddy, how you doing? Happy September. It feels like fall here in Wisconsin. So how you doing, Wags?
Doing good, man. And yeah, it's Friday night. We're doing a podcast, enjoying a beer. What's better? We're getting ready for week 1 of the NFL season. And I couldn't be more excited for this season to get underway. It's been a minute, man, since we've had some actual football. And obviously hope springs eternal this time of year, and I think for good reason for the Packers. But no, man, I'm just super excited to dive into this. We haven't had a chance to, as you said, talk Micah Parsons, talk how this roster is shaped up after cut downs. So good to be here and ready to dive into it.
Yep. So right away, man, let's just talk Micah Parsons right at the top. We got to just do it. Huge trade, kind of unlike the Packers. The Packers have signed guys, right? You shared a video with me, talk with Gruden, right? John Gruden was talking about Xavier McKinney and the Packers drafted and developed, but they're also going after guys. But Micah Parsons trading 2 first-round picks and opening the pocketbook is not very Green Bay. Even Charles Woodson was a free agent signing. Reggie White really is, in my opinion, the last time we went. He was a free agent too. I can't remember the last time the Packers traded picks and did this for a primetime player. So Packers are all in. What do you make of Micah Parsons? How does he make this defense better? Because I got to tell you, man, on paper, he makes this defense just better across the board.
Yeah, and I think you're not going to get either of, I think, our initial over the top excited reaction to this. Just has been a bit since this actually all went down. But you said this makes the defense a lot better across the board. This was a good defense last year. Showed a lot of improvement under Jeff Hafley in his first full year as a defensive coordinator. One could nitpick and point out that we didn't exactly face a murderer's row of starting quarterbacks and top offenses. And a lot of the games last year, obviously we had our share of games that we did, but this is a defense that we had some question marks about. There's some areas of the defense that look really good. But look, getting after the quarterback and rushing the passer, we've had spurts of that, but it's not something that Packer defense has been able to hang their hat on, especially just with rushing 4. And I think they had to change some things up. They thought they were going to be able to do that more consistently with the guys that they had started last season, and it was not as consistent as I think they wanted it to be. And so Halfway had to dial up more pressures outside of that front 4, which he was able to do successfully. However, Micah Parsons, I think he said the other day, he's never been on a team that hasn't had a Pro Bowl or all-pro cornerback. And it might be a little bit of hubris, but when you look at the guys he's played with on the outside, it's not like any of those guys came into the league as, considered to be all-pro talent necessarily. They played well and they earned it. But when you've got a guy like Mike Parsons that can consistently pressure the quarterback, it's not just about the sacks that he gets, which is great, but he's among the top 2 or 3 guys consistently at quarterback pressures for every year he's been in the league. And so that just elevates everyone around him. So starting with the quarterback needing to get rid of the ball faster than they might normally have to, that makes it easier for the cornerbacks. His ability to soak up extra blockers or shift attention to whatever size he's on should make life easier for Rashawn Gary, for Devontae Wyatt, for Lucas Van Ness, whoever else is out there rushing the passer. I think there's a lot being made especially from the Dallas camp about, hey, like Micah's not renowned as a really good stopper of the run, but I mean, he's going to draw a lot of attention. He sheds blocks, and from what I've seen him on tape, and we've dived into it a lot, he's pretty good against the run. And look, he's going to command a lot of attention every down. It's not just on third down. And now we've got 3 really good linebackers behind him in Edwin Cooper, who I think could be a star in the making in this league, coming into his second full season and now starter from week 1. Quay Walker, I think, is someone that really settled into this offense in the second half of last year before he got some nagging injuries. But and then certainly, we always like what we can get out of whoever else is out there, if we're playing nickel or if we're playing our base set. So look, we're going to have a really good safety tandem. We're strong up the middle. I think there are some questions now. I'll turn this back over to you when we're ready to talk about kind of what losing Kenny Clark might mean for the defense this year. But just sticking with the Micah Parsons impact, it elevates us on all 3 levels and make this defense better as a whole. So everybody can talk about, well, what was the compensation? How much did they have to pay the guy? But this opens up a window for not only this season, but for probably at least the next 3 seasons for this Packers defense to be really, really good. They can build around this guy. They've got a lot of high level talent that they're already surrounding him with. But it's an area that was a little bit of a weakness for the Packers. And I think it makes this defense on paper quite a bit better. So there's a lot to love about this. I'm not going to go out there and just say this guarantees we're going to the Super Bowl. Things don't work that way. But for now, as we head into the regular season, how can you not be excited about what this could mean for this defense and how this could elevate us going into the season?
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's it makes us, it does, to your point. I mean, it just makes us stronger. I mean, I do think it covers up a little bit of the lack of depth at cornerback, bringing in a pass rusher, because going into this season, if we're serious about winning a Super Bowl, you got to have a consistent pass rush, right? And I've talked about it for years now on this podcast. I go back to those New York Giants teams that just had a relentless pass rush. They could throw 3-4 guys at you. And I think bringing Parsons in not only elevates the starters, but it also just, it sets a tone amongst the pass rushers here on the team. So really exciting for that. But you mentioned Kenny Clark, Wags. And, great Packer, right? He was on his 3rd contract here in Green Bay. And indeed, it's big shoes to fill, right? Kenny has been a consummate professional. He's somebody in the locker room, and then somebody who's made major impacts over his time in Green Bay. I'm looking at the depth chart, which, kind of take with a grain of salt, but the Packers have Devontae Wyatt and Colby Wooden starting up at the defensive tackle positions. Because again, folks, Jeff Hafley last year comes in, we were a 3-4 defense. Now we're a 4-3 defense. So, Wyatt and Wooden here. But I got to tell you, Wags, I really like this defensive front that Green Bay has put together. It's youthful on the back end. There's no doubt about that. Packers brought in Warren Brinson from Georgia. He was a 6th-round pick. Packers also brought in Nazir Stackhouse. Nas being a undrafted guy, but he's just a load, right? He's very reminiscent, I would argue, of TJ Slayton, big guy, hard to move around, and then our guy Carl Brooks in there as well. So even though the depth chart says Colby Wooden and Devontae Wyatt, I've got to think that the Packers are going to be rotating guys pretty significantly. And although Stackhouse is on the back end of the depth chart right now, Wags, what do you think? I mean, dude's going to be playing early downs, right? He's not a pass rusher, but he's a first and second down guy in obvious potential run situations. I expect Stackhouse to get run. I expect him to actually be dressed on Sundays. So big shoes to fill for Carl Brooks. But I think that the Packers saw an opportunity to go get an absolute game wrecker in Micah Parsons. And I think that they liked a lot of what they saw from some of these young guys in camp enough that they said, you know what, let's make this decision.
Yeah, I agree. And look, Kenny Clark has been, a big part of this Packers organization for 9+ seasons. So his loss is going to be felt in many ways, both from a leadership perspective and the locker room. And really his play on the field, he's not at the same level as he was. I think the peak of his career, it's safe to say at this point, was 5-6 seasons ago, when he's in his mid-20s. He's 30 years old. I think he played fine last year. I know he said in camp that his toe did have an impact, which it very well may have. But to be honest, I think Kenny's best days have been behind him for a couple of seasons now. So I don't want to say that I don't want this to come across like, oh, Kenny Clark's not any good anymore. That was good. That was ready. I think, however, because I think he would have helped us this year still for sure. However, I say that, and when you look at his cap number or what it would have been next season, this was in all likelihood, unless there was, a restructure extension and Kenny Clark played well enough this year to merit that. And maybe he would have. I guess we'll never know. We'll see what he does down in Dallas. This was probably going to be his last year in Green Bay anyway, just from a business perspective. That's not even talking about Kenny Clark, the player, or like that he couldn't have still been someone that could help the team for a few more seasons. But he's on his third contract with the Packers and would have had a huge cap number next year. So I think it's just kind of, you're looking ahead and saying, this was what Ted Thompson did, not the trade for Micah Parsons, but he was always moving on from guys a year, quote unquote, too early instead of a year too late. And so I think in the big picture, it might sting a little bit to lose Kenny Clark, but you said Packers are very high on the 5 guys they have in this defensive line position group, and they just got a lot younger. Honestly, I don't think there's a single guy in that group that's over 25 years old. So they're going to be able to rotate through. I think that probably bodes well, and I don't want to jinx anything, but that probably bodes well. Just overall, younger guys usually stay healthier for the most part over the course of an 18-week NFL season. And while Warren Brinson and Nas Stackhouse probably aren't going to earn a ton of snaps early in the season, I think this enables them to rotate guys in, stay fresh, stay healthy. I expect Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, and we'll see with Devontae Wyatt. He looked really good at the start of last year. So he's coming into the season healthy. So I'm excited to see what those guys can do. We may also see some other guys from the outside rotate in. We talked about before the season. I wouldn't be shocked to see Lucas Van Ness rotate inside occasionally. He did that in college. And if he's really going to capitalize on the camp, by all accounts, Lucas Van Ness had his best camp as a pro. Then let's see it. Let's get him out there in the field, and hopefully he can find some ways for him to get some additional snaps as well. So I like what they're doing here. I think it does hurt to lose Kenny Clark, and it was interesting to see him out there in a Cowboys uniform in that game last night against the Eagles. But the reality is you do this without even thinking about it. It's you're getting a a prime edge rusher in his literal prime.
26, right?
26. It's
Yeah.
a premium position. I mean, I think yeah, I'm not just gonna. I don't need to spell this out, but Packers, you build a roster by paying a quarterback and an edge rusher. And the Packers had a Rashawn Gary. I think this opens up a ton of things for him. But now with Mike Parsons there as well, you've got your guys now that you're kind of anchoring everything in the roster for the next 3-4 years. And let's go. Let's see. Let's get after it. I can't wait to see this.
I can't either.
Absolutely. So Dane, let's shift gears then. Other topics. How are you feeling about how this team's shaping up? Just looking at the roster, injuries, kind of how things are coming together. I know, you look at the wide receiver position group has been dinged up pretty much all the way through camp. Jaden Reed has been battling a foot injury, and it sounds like, the sitting out. He's not a for sure for week 1, but trying to work through those issues and hopefully be able to get him onto the field on Sundays. But in general, what are your thoughts on how this roster came together and kind of how we're looking heading in here into week 1?
Yeah, I like this team, and I'm not saying it because I'm wearing the Packer hat, right? I like this team. I like the depth along the offensive line, something that we always are looking at, something we're always striving for. The running back group, it's a deep group there. Josh Jacobs, but Emmanuel Wilson and certainly Chris Brooks are two guys that can play ball, and Packers were able to get Israel on the practice squad. It's a deep group at running back. Wide receiver injuries are the biggest concern there right now. I think I'm not worried about the talent level there. I'm not even going to say I'm concerned about the injuries, but it's something that you've got to be mindful of, right? So you mentioned Jaden Reed with this injury. Let's see how this goes. It sounds like he's got, what is it called, Wags? The Jones fracture? Is that what it's called?
That's what they're reporting.
Yeah. So that's something that's going to stick with him, right, this season. I don't see a scenario where it doesn't. Obviously, some other injuries across there, but I'm so optimistic about the first round pick, Matthew Golden. He's somebody that has just been explosive since day one in camp. He's looked really strong in preseason games. He looks like a dynamic wide receiver. He looks like a guy who can stretch the field, but also has really good hands that can make some plays, move the chains. So what the Packers are looking for, I think, at the wide receiver room is that number one dog, right? Right now, there's a lot of guys that can make plays, but who's your go-to guy? And it remains to be seen if Matthew Golden's the guy or not. We're about to find out really quick here. But man, I'm optimistic and I'm excited that he just kind of hit the ground running. He and Jordan Love seem to have a good rapport. He just seems to be somebody that's explosive. So love that room there right now. And I think it can be very deep, especially, as guys start to come back from injury. Dontavian Wicks, I feel like because of injury, the hype kind of went away from him this year. Last off season, that was all anybody talked about. Then he went into the year, was continuing to get open. Our buddy Timmy was talking about that with us, right? He always gets open, but he had some drop issues. If he can put the catches together this year, he can be a guy that could be a huge problem for teams. Then all of a sudden, right, you got Romeo Doubs, who in my opinion is like Mr. Reliable, right? He's got great hands, finds a way to get open. Dontavian Wicks always seems to find his way open. If he can catch the ball, look out. If Jaden Reed, does his thing and he's able to get there in the slot, Matthew Golden, and then, Christian Watson, look out, right? This is a deep room, wide receiver room. Tight end, I'm excited about it. Tucker Kraft had a breakout year last season. I expect for him to continue to build on it. Actually, the guy I'm looking at in that room is Musgrave, Luke Musgrave. Can he stay healthy? can he put together a strong season here as the number 2 tight end? So that's the thing there. But across the board, Wags, offensively at least, I'm really, really eager to see what they can do. But I like what we're seeing out of this team. But the thing I want to ask you offensively, were you surprised on the offensive line? Jordan Morgan, Wags, had so Rashid Walker got hurt, didn't play a few of these preseason games. Jordan Morgan was tremendous at left tackle for Green Bay this offseason. First round pick last year, tremendous preseason, put together a ton of really positive tape. I thought he had earned a spot somewhere along the offensive line. And I said on our last pod, I thought Rashid Walker had the inside track at left tackle, but I thought that Jordan Morgan would play somewhere. That somewhere I assumed would have been a guard taking over for Sean Ryan. Green Bay's depth chart rolls out and he's not on the starting 5. What do you make of that? I'm so curious what your take is because we haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah, I was actually going to swing over to the offensive line since we often spend a lot of time on the skill position, guys. Yeah. But I guess my initial thought is that that must speak to the strength of what this offensive line could be this season, because we talked going into camp that all things being equal between Jordan Morgan and either Rashid Walker or Sean Ryan, if Packers felt like it was going to be between any of those guys, Jordan Morgan would probably get the nod. And that's not just because he's a first round pick, although I think that probably does play a little bit of part in it. But it's also kind of how it sets up the player and the team for future seasons, because Rashid Walker and Sean Ryan are guys that they would have to pay a second contract to in order to keep around past this season. And so you're kind of looking at how they're building their offensive line, position group. You've got Jordan Morgan, who was the first round pick last year, and you kind of figure maybe he steps into that starting role this year. And then you've got Anthony Belton, who had a pretty up and down camp and preseason, but you see some potential there. And maybe he's kind of the swing guy for next year. And if he can earn a position either next year or the year after, you're kind of slotting guys in, because you can't pay every offensive lineman 10 to 20 million a year. And they've already paid a few guys, right? So to me, it speaks to the strength of this offensive line, because we know Morgan played well. That's not even in question. He played really well in camp and in those preseason games. So it's not as if it was, he just didn't look ready, and that's why he's not going to earn that spot. As you said, by all accounts, he was really pushing and he looks like a starting offensive lineman somewhere. So it's a good problem for the Packers to have. If they feel like Rashid Walker and Sean Ryan, they're the incumbents at the position, they had to be clearly unseated from that role. Competition's a good thing. And if Jordan Morgan was not quite good enough to unseat either of those guys, then I feel pretty good about our offensive line going into this season. But I'll turn this back to you. I think, Dane, the reality is we're going to need more than 5 offensive linemen over the course of this season. So it also gives me a lot of confidence that regardless of whether he's starting week 1, we've got at least one guy that we should feel really good about stepping in and filling a position if someone goes down, either short or longer term. But what say you? I think, Jordan Morgan is one guy, but when you look at kind of the rest of that offensive line group behind the starters, there's some question marks there, isn't there? I mean, we struggled a little bit. I don't know that, Donovan Jennings made this roster, which we're very happy for him. But I think we struggled a little bit to establish anything. at center behind Elton Jenkins, which is a little bit of a concern for me. Now, hopefully Elton can go out there. This is a new position for him. Obviously, he's been a very, I'm sure he's going to do extremely well. That's been something we've been calling for him to move to center for a few years now. But it's a little shaky behind there, at least from what we've seen so far. Now, Sean Ryan's officially listed as the backup center on the depth chart. So assuming he would move over and Morgan would come in at guard if that were to be a need. But, you've got Jennings, Kennard, Anthony Belton as the other guys that are listed on our depth chart behind the starters. And Belton's a big dude. He can maul in the run game, but he had some good pass blocking grades. He did some good things, but you can't, as we saw in the playoffs, you can't send someone in there if they're not ready and they're just getting flagged every other play either. So that's got to be a little bit of a concern. But overall, I think you got to like the top 6 guys for sure with this offensive line group. But do you think they're done kind of building depth and they're just going to go with the guys they have? Or is there a chance that they could be tinkering with this offensive line here over the course of the season if they don't feel like they have it quite right yet?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I could definitely see the Packers aren't, opposed over the years. They always seem to find a veteran offensive tackle at some point in the year. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but it spoke, I think, to their reservations maybe with the depth that they went out and got Kennard, right? They used a draft pick and went and got Kennard. So I think that instantly that was pretty telling for them. I do know that Jacob Monk is on the IR, designated to return. He's going to be a second-year guy from Duke. Potentially he could slot in, right, also as a center, but he had a bit of an up and down camp too. So that's where it gets difficult. You're right. We had the best luck maybe I've ever seen out of offensive line in Green Bay in my recollection last year with the continuity until we didn't against Philadelphia. But up until that point, we had incredible continuity along the offensive line. This season, you can't expect that to happen year to year. It's such a violent game. These are big men going real damn fast. So yes, Wags, I could totally see a scenario where the Packers tinker, right? Or try to find guys and continue to get better. Gutekunst, for some of the stuff that people say about him, he is always aggressive during the season in adding talent, right? I mean, I go back to Rasul Douglas, and there's other guys that are going to escape me right now, but he's always kind of going there and adding guys, off of waivers or doing what he needs to do to try to make the roster better. So I expect the Packers to continue to do that across the board, but offensive line in particular and probably cornerback are the 2 positions that I could see the Packers, continue to try to find depth as the season progresses.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you look at, and this kind of goes back to our opening discussion of how's this roster looking. There just doesn't seem to be any obvious weaknesses, which is an awesome thing to see when you look up and down this roster. And so that's exciting. We're kind of nitpicking. I'm not down on the guys that are kind of behind the starters or those top 6 guys. We're talking about a very strong first 6, I think, offensive line. A lot of teams in this league would kill to be in that position. So let's just have some perspective here. That I think it goes to show, there was some people scratching their heads of why did we go out and sign Aaron Banks and why did we use a 2nd-round pick on Anthony Belton? But this offensive line would look a lot different if those 2 guys weren't part of that group right now, wouldn't it? So you can never have enough guys. You've been saying that, I think, every year we've been on this podcast.
Right.
When it comes to offensive linemen, you can never have enough. And I think the Packers certainly subscribe to that. So
yeah, it's Wags. It's so unsexy, right? The bank signing, all that. But you're right. It's like now you look at the offensive line. It's like if we're going to invest in Jordan Love, he's as good as the guys are up front. They're going to keep him upright, right? I mean, that's the reality of the league. So 100%. And we're talking about blocking. Lee86 dropped in the chat wondering about the blocking tight end situation. I mean, Fitzpatrick and Sims both made the roster, right? So we got a couple tight ends in addition to, of course, Tucker Kraft and Musgrave. Fitzpatrick, I think, is going to be a guy that's going to get a little bit of run here and there. So, Lee, I just want to answer that directly. Really like what he's done here. He had, I thought, a quiet couple weeks to start the year, but mind you, ended the last season, Sims was inactive for the playoff game. Fitzpatrick played. Both of those guys earned roster spots in the offseason. I expect the Packers to turn those guys out, but it all starts with Tucker Kraft. He's a guy who can do all things, right? That's something he did last year. He's an eager blocker. He finds open space. I like the tight end situation in Green Bay.
Yeah, I do too. And I think especially, as you said earlier, with Musgrave being fully healthy, he wasn't healthy at all going into the season last year. And that's just kind of a lost season. Tucker Kraft elevated himself clearly, with the wide receiver group being a little dinged up and 4 guys on that position group being listed as questionable for Sunday. I mean, I expect probably most, if not all of them, to end up going, but we'll see. I think Jaden Reed is the most questionable out of those 4 guys. I was going to mention earlier when you were talking about the tight ends, it could be a position group that maybe we'll lean on a little bit more in the pass game. And Musgrave's shown that ability. Kraft obviously has shown that ability. They bring different things to the table as pass catchers, and certainly we're going to want to get Jacobs in the run game going. But I think there's a lot of multiplicity there. There's options. There's a lot of mouths to feed, even with some of the wide receivers being a little bit dinged up. Certainly, as you mentioned, we've still got Dobbs. We've got Golden. Excited to see what those guys can do. I think even if Reed can't go, Dontavian Wicks has shown some flashes of what he can do. So I'm confident that we've got more than enough, all over the place, even if we've got guys dinged up for a week or 2 or 3 here and there, to be able to step in and get the job done. So really excited to see what this offense can do with a healthy Jordan Love, a full second season here now for Josh Jacobs. Looks like a really very strong offensive line. We've got our full tight end room. We've got a flashy new, number 1 pick at wide receiver. I mean, let's go. This is all of the things you need. And by the way, we've got one of the best play callers and offensive, designers in the league at head coach and Matt LaFleur. So, don't overthink this. Let's just go out. Let's have fun. Let's, sling the ball around. Let's run the ball. Let's put some points on the board. I think I'm ready to get after this, man. I'm ready to go.
Me too, Wags. And so the Packers play Sunday, 3:25 Lambeau time. So I'm going to ask you a question here and tee you up as we talk week 1. The Packers win on Sunday if?
That's a great question. I think if Josh Jacobs goes for over 100 yards in this game, I really like our chances. I mean, that to me says that they have all of the parts of this offense are probably going to be working well. If Josh Jacobs is able to do that, they're probably trying to drop the hammer and maybe play with a lead if that's the situation. So, I mean, we talked about all the other things in this offense, and it all comes back to the running back and Josh Jacobs and what he meant to this offense last year. So I'm just going to start there. I think if we can punch the Lions in the mouth, and that's what they like to do to their team under Dan Campbell, to their opposing, defenses, and that's been their calling card the last few seasons. But the Packers can answer with physicality and punch them in the mouth a little bit. And I think Josh Jacobs is a big part of that. But I'll return the question. Do you have a same or a different answer, Dan?
I like that. I'm going to think defensively. Can we win the turnover battle? Can we make the Lions turn the ball over at Lambeau? Because then the momentum just swings our way. This is a Lions offense that, yes, they have the same head coach. No, they don't have the same offensive coordinator. He's now the head coach of Chicago. I want to see what's the same, what's the different. This is a team that won 15 games last year. They were really good over there in Detroit. Offensively, they were extremely dynamic. They still have a lot of the same. They have all the same guys, right? They got Gibbs, they got St. Brown, they got Williams, they got Jared Goff, they got Montgomery, they got all these guys. That being said, I want to see Green Bay win the turnover battle. I want to see Green Bay get after Jared Goff. I want to see Green Bay get a consistent pass rush. It's going to be absolutely critical that they do that. I have a lot of faith in this Green Bay offense. I really do this year. I'm really high on this offense. Defensively, Wags, Halfley last year, we saw leaps and bounds better than in previous seasons. I want to see Green Bay build on that. This is the team in Green Bay last year. I'm just going to say it. No identity. There was no identity. I remember as we got into near the end of the season, I'm like, who is this team, right? What are they great at? They're good at some stuff. What are they great at? And then the season ended in a whimper, right? We lost a few games to the end of the regular season, and then we lost in Philadelphia. I don't think that's acceptable. I want to see Green Bay start to have an attitude. I want to see this Packer team have an identity. And I truly believe the identity of this Packers team, if they're going to go deep in the playoffs this year, is going to be defense. And are they a team that has a chip on their shoulder and gets after it? They played faster last year defensively. What their Achilles heel last year was the pass rush. We just went out and got the best damn pass rusher in football to try to fix that. So can we set the tone early against Detroit, get after Jared Goff, make him make mistakes, make him turn over the football? If we can do that, we're winning the game on Sunday.
Yeah, Jared Goff has impressed me. I think he's been a better quarterback in Detroit than I ever thought he would be.
Same.
But he's not the same guy when he doesn't have that rhythm. I mean, you can say that about any quarterback. So that's slightly speaking in platitudes, but Jared Goff, he's not going to beat you with his legs. And I mean, he likes to get rid of the ball quickly and in rhythm. Find his guy, balls out, right? And so if Packers can be disruptive at the line of scrimmage, I really like that. And I think you're absolutely right. I just hope that we don't go to too great of a length to try to establish an identity here in week one, where it becomes, this macho man battle between LaFleur and Campbell. I feel like sometimes LaFleur, I really like him as a coach overall, but sometimes it feels like he makes questionable decisions that you're just kind of like, all right, you're trying to prove a point versus let's just make the best call to execute on this 3rd and short. I don't care if you have to, call something that doesn't involve trying to run straight up the middle and prove that you're more physical than the other team. Let's just move the chains, coach. Right. So, I think there's a little bit of that can go on between the lines as well. If I'm being a little bit critical, I feel like sometimes last year we got into too many 3rd downs on the offensive side of the ball. And that puts a lot of pressure on an offense. So can we be more explosive while still being able to establish the run? Sometimes it's hard to build an identity and be able to do all of those things together. I realize that's kind of that perfect storm, and it doesn't always happen. So I think you're right on the nose, Dane. But you've got to be able to hang your hat on something as a starting point. So I really like the idea of the Packers being able to hang their identity on a really high performing defense and being able to run the football. I think all the other things can come together after that, and good things can happen if that's the starting recipe. But certainly we'll see if they are ready for that, just regardless of what happens on Sunday. It doesn't mean that they won't eventually build that identity. It may not be right away in week one. It's hard for teams. I think you've got most guys that are starting have sat out the majority of the preseason, so it's usually not the cleanest performance in week one. But certainly I think that is a good call. So I would be on board with that all the way around. Dane, any other observations, anything else that you wanted to touch on before?
No, I want to get to X Factors here. We love talking our X Factors. We're pretty damn good, folks. If you haven't listened, right now we're live on a Friday. I know a lot of you, listen to the podcast later, but we're pretty damn good at picking X Factors week to week. We have a pretty good record of it. So don't want to brag, but I just bragged. We're good at it. One thing I want to highlight, Wags, and the final thing is the speed of the linebackers. Watch how fast this linebacker group is this year, particularly Edrin Cooper, Quay Walker. I know Quay's been up and down. Quay Walker, when he was on the field last year in this defense, I really thought he came into his own the second half of last year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm excited to see what those two guys can do. With that, Wags, I want to hear your X factor. I want to hear your you pick offense, you pick defense. You determine what you want to do first. And folks, for those of you that are new, X factor, we do it every week. We want, like, if this is the guy that can make an impact, right? It's not necessarily the superstar. We're not going Jordan Love every week. We're talking about, who's a guy that's an impact player potentially that could just stand out and really swing the game in our favor. So Wags, I give you the floor.
All right. Well, all that being said, that we're not doing Jordan Love every week. My first week one X factor is going to be Jordan Love.
Come on. That's how, folks, that's how you know that we don't really plan this ahead of time. I had no idea.
Well, I mean, you're right, though. We wouldn't normally pick him. I think here's the thing. I really want to see what's he look like. I think he played one preseason game. Statistically, it didn't look good, but I thought the ball was right on point. There were some drop passes that affected kind of that outcome in that game. And to me, it's about, all right, Jordan Love's coming into his third year as a starter. We've got a big divisional matchup here at home to start the season. The division is not won or lost in week one, but how is Jordan Love setting the tone? And like, it's not just about whatever his stats are in this game. I think it's all about the intangibles. And we've seen some really good things from Jordan Love, but is he able to make clean decisions? Is he, getting this offense kind of in rhythm early in the game? I think those are all things that it's fair to say Jordan Love is kind of the primary guy. He's not the only one that's a part of that. It takes 11 guys on both sides of the football. But I think here's an opportunity for Jordan Love to go from being, all right, he's a good starter. We can see what his arm potential is. He's had some really high moments already in his career as a starter in Green Bay. But consistency is kind of the big question. Can Jordan Love from week one right away set the tone to say, hey, I'm ready to be a top 5 quarterback in this league? That's the X factor to me. And that's bigger than just this game, I realize. But I think it starts with week one, set that tone that he's ready to take that jump. And what better opportunity than in a big matchup at home against Detroit.
Terrific. All right, Wags. I'm going to go offense then too. If you want offense, it's Matthew freaking Golden is going to be my X factor this week. We're so high on this young man. We think that he's a guy. So he's put together so much good tape preseason. Now he's playing at Lambeau Field, wearing number 0. Let's go ball out against a 15-win, last season Detroit Lions team. I cannot wait to watch Matthew Golden trot out there on the field. I cannot wait to see him. You have Jordan Love. I got Matthew Golden. Let's get a connection going. I want to see this guy break out the game, right? I think he's so talented. He's supremely talented with the other talent around him, a wide receiver. It's got to be Matthew Golden week 1. Go ball out, young man. Go have a day. I can't wait to watch you.
Awesome. Very good. He was going to be my pick. And you know how I like to go with rookie wide receivers with Jaden Reed being my pick almost every week a couple of years ago. But I just figured I would keep him in the back pocket for now. All right, Dane, let's go over to defense, and I'll let you lead it off on the defensive side.
Kenny Clark's gone, Wags. We're talking set the tone. I want to see our boy Carl Brooks is who I'm going to throw out there right away. X Factor. He's a guy who last year played really good football. We had a chance to talk with Carl earlier this offseason, and he had splash plays week in, week out, it seemed like, right? He always has that play. This is an opportunity for him to just make that impact that we know he's going to make and just put together that really consistent ball. He's built these first couple seasons here in Green Bay to the point, in my opinion, he's a big reason why Kenny, the Packers felt that they had an opportunity to move on from him. I think Carl Brooks is going to play really good football on Sunday. He's really good pass rusher. I think he's getting better and better against the run. He's a violent player on the inside. You mentioned it earlier. They're going to, I think, rotate guys in and out. That's going to be the plan this year. They always do that, but I expect them to do it slightly more this year. But I think Carl Brooks is going to get a lion's share of some of these pass rush opportunities. I think he's going to be in there more often than not on some of these early downs. So Carl Brooks is going to be my X factor, because I think that he's a guy that can make an impact early and make an impact often for the Packers defense, not only this week against Detroit, but going forward.
All right. Well, we were not simpatico, I guess, if you want to say that, on the offensive side, but you did not steal my X factor, but I was going same position group. And I'm not going to put the pressure on Colby Wooden, as he's kind of officially stepping in for Kenny Clark. But I'm going to have Devontae Wyatt as my X factor. So we're going with 2 defensive linemen. How about that?
That's how we do it here.
But truly, I truly believe this is a similar. It's not just this week. Devontae Wyatt has shown the flashes to be a star defensive lineman. And so if he can really elevate himself to that level consistently, and obviously it's a big if of staying healthy, then we're not going to feel that loss of Kenny Clark nearly as much, because I'm confident in the other guys. We talked all about that earlier. But to me, Devontae Wyatt, he's coming into this is his 4th season.
5th year, because he signed his fee. It was a 5th year option.
Okay.
5th year.
Thank you. So, I mean, this is a big season for Devontae Wyatt, and he started to put some things together. I think he's a really good fit in this defense and in the scheme. But this is a big moment. And so he's the veteran guy in that position group. Can he step up, be the leader, show the way for the rest of these young guys? And I think he can. And it starts here in week 1 on Sunday.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe we're talking football that matters. I was talking to my mom this morning. She's like, when do they actually start? She's like, this Sunday isn't the first game, right? I was like, Mom, it matters now. So, I think I love talking real Packer football as much as we love the preseason. So excited. Wags, who you got? Let's predict. Who you got? Who's winning this game?
Of course, man? I've got the Packers. Why wouldn't I pick the Packers? You know what, Dane? Game script for this one. I think Packers can get some movement offensively, throw some drives together. I think in this one, week 1, maybe they struggle a little bit to get across the goal line in some of those drives. So it's going to be a lot of Brandon McManus. I'm going to say he gets 4 field goals on Sunday. We're going to score 26 points, and we're going to take care of business 26-20 over Detroit on Sunday.
Wow. I love that. We're so close. I'm 27-24. I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be a nail biter. Same kind of vibes, right? It's going to be one of those games where you're just all these games are one of those games. The NFC North is absolutely stacked yet again this season. It's going to be a slog. Last year, the Packers made the playoffs, even though we had a really poor record in the NFC North. Let's flip the script this year. Let's beat Detroit in week 1, 27-24 Green Bay Packers. I'm feeling good about it.
I love it. I love it. All right, Dane, anything else before we sign off here? I love seeing some of the comments in the chat as well. So it's a Friday night and we've got the usual folks lighting up the chat. So it's good to see you guys, Wayne, Kevin, Lee, all of you. Thanks for joining tonight and appreciate all of the comments in the chat tonight. Dane, anything else you want to add though before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, just shout out to our boy Daniel Whelan got a 3-year contract extension. He's a great friend of our podcast, been on a few times. So thanks, Danny, but also congratulations. Huge deal getting that 3-year contract extension. Wags, you and I said when he first was in camp and he was battling Danny O'Donnell, we said, you know what, we think he could be a punter in Green Bay for 10 years. And I know people on social media laughed at us. And now look at him. He's putting it together. So it's really, really cool, not only because he's a good dude, but also because he's just putting it together. He's a really, really fun punter to watch. I can't believe I'm saying that. A fun punter to watch. But he's a weapon out there in Green Bay every single Sunday, not only as a holder, but as a punter. So congrats, Danny, on that 3-year contract extension.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like your mother joined us here. You were just talking about her. So she's probably really happy about that. So, and then, of course, I saw Gop and Sheila in the chats as well. So didn't want to leave anyone out. Thanks all you all for joining. As always, be legendary and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack Go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will